Thank you, Wendell Goller. Well, our next guest is the first and only member of Congress to call for the U.S. Secret Service Director, Mark Sullivan, to resign over the prostitution scandal. Joining us now, Congressman Randy Forbes, member of the Judiciary Committee and the House Armed Services Committee. Congressman, let's first start with White House Press Secretary Jay Carney, who said that it's preposterous, as he put it, to politicize this event, this scandal. Your reaction?
Well, first of all, Lou, we're not politicizing it. We're talking about the lead agency, the Secret Service, in designing and implementing security planning for the leadership of the United States of America. And this is Security Planning 101. First page, first chapter, first sentence would always be, don't let the prostitutes in. The other thing is we have to recognize this isn't something that checks and balances from the Secret Service uncovered. This is something that was only determined and brought to the public because one of the prostitutes wasn't paid. We don't have but one president in the United States. We can't afford to make these kind of slip-ups. I think this is a systematic thing that we've got to deal with.
We have pictures of one of the prostitutes at the center of the scandal and some of her comments. She's spoken about the incident. She says, and I want to find out how reassuring this is to you, she says that the Secret Service agents involved, quote, never told me they were with Obama, and that, quote, they were very discreet. Your reaction?
Well, Lou, that's almost worse. I mean, we're talking about a culture of trusting these individuals with the security protection of the President of the United States and the rest of the leadership in this country. And to realize that you're letting prostitutes in, to subject yourself to blackmail and other types of things. And also, we don't know what kind of information they could have gotten about the President of the United States. It would be one thing if we were talking about a single incident, but this was almost a busload of individuals they're bringing in. I think it's something that we have to deal with because perceptions matter, not just to people in the United States, Lou, but also to the rest of the world who's saying, what in the world is happening to the security of the United States?
I talked earlier this week with the Armed Services Committee, your committee chairman, Buck McKeon. He disagreed with you. He thinks that Mark Sullivan, the head of the Secret Service, should stay in his post. Your reasoning as to why he should leave?
Lou, every day we're watching Americans wake up and they realize that perceptions really do matter. They look and they're worried about whether or not their children can afford to go to college, whether they're going to have a job tomorrow. They're concerned about whether they're going to have retirement. And what do they see on television? They see GSA employees dressed up like clowns, swimming in hot tubs, taking the Fifth Amendment about taxpayer money. And now they're seeing, again, the lead agency for security in the country, the Secret Service, having prostitutes come in and violate one of the basic premises that we have for keeping this country secure. And I think they're looking for us not just to be angry, not just to wait, but to actually change these systems and make sure we're fixing what they view as a broken government. I think this is a bigger systematic problem, and it needs to be fixed.
Mark Sullivan, the Secret Service Director, Janet Napolitano, the head of Homeland Security, Congressman, should she also step down? At what point does the buck stop?
Well, I think one of the things that most of the American people want to see, and most of us in Congress want to see, is some degree of accountability. We're tired of whether it's Fast and Furious or whether it's this situation with the Secret Service or whether it's the GSA, constantly looking every time we have these problems and saying this is just politics. At some particular point in time, we've got to have some accountability, and that means somebody has to step up and say we're going to change this system.
Well, that opportunity is certainly before the Congress right now and this president. Defense Secretary Leon Panetta, 27 trips since last July as Secretary of Defense to the West Coast. That's just about 3 a month at enormous cost to the taxpayer. Yet I have not heard the Armed Services Committee or the Republican leadership, for that matter, in Congress or the Senate, step up and say, this is outrageous.
Well, Lou, I think, first of all, it is outrageous, but the reason you haven't heard us saying that is because we've been focused on another issue, which is protecting the rule of law in the country. Just this week, we had hearings with the Secretary. The big question I was concerned about is what's going to happen to the United States as far as getting into additional military conflicts. Are we going to just rely on international permission before we do that? Or are we going to obey the War Powers Act and make sure that we have permission from Congress? They're the issues that I think are even greater than whatever expenditures the Secretary might be making.
He told you all that we're an inch from war with Syria. Is that a war you want, your fellow Republicans, the Republican leadership? My Lord, have we learned nothing here?
Lou, I don't think it's a war that anybody wants. I think the most important thing is that we not have a situation where the administration is engaging in military conflict without complying with the War Powers Act, which is to mean that they're going to get permission from Congress. And when I ask the Secretary that, I always measure them by three things: what they say, what they don't say, and the actions that they take. The Secretary specifically said that they would not take any military action without a consensus permission from the world community, whatever that might be. Right. Secondly, he refused to say that they would have to have permission from Congress. And the third thing, we know in Libya, they took that action without permission of Congress.
Perhaps they could apply to the United Nations to pay for the gasoline, the jet fuel, and that jetliner the Secretary is flying to the West Coast as he contemplates war with Syria. Congressman, always good to talk with you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Lou.
Congressman Randy Forbes. Up next, new analysis of the president's bloated budget, revealing something that